This is a small tutorial on how to create a simple vendor or how to use the systems to make the interaction. This is the info player start, this is where we start, this is the monster. From the video we could see that the player basically walks to this window and then makes use of the use key on the monster. This is when we talk or interact with the NPC. Now the NPC itself is hard-coded to execute task init whenever we talk to it. As you can see, this is target to use when the player interacts with an NPC. The target that we execute, task init, is actually this entity. Task init's purpose is only to make sure that we can execute this event only once, so the count is set to 1. Once we actually do so, we execute task init2. Task init2 is this particular entity. AI do task is a simple function which allows us to execute which task the NPCs should basically follow. We can also set up a movement kind. This ensures that the NPC will actually walk to the target, to the task itself. By setting the movement kind to 1, basically make the NPC run towards the window. You can see we have walk, run, teleport, and instant. I'll explain how instant works in a second. This is the task AI task entity that the enemy will walk into or run into. This is when he prints, "Oh, hi there, welcome to my shop," and also plays the look around animation. At this point, we can also see that this particular entity has a proxy name set to task 0. We will use that later. Now, once the animation has ended, the monster is supposed to move into task 0A. But do notice that movement kind is set to instant. Here we go, instant. What does it mean? This means that the transition between AI task 0 and task 0A will be instantaneous. It means the monster doesn't have to move to this location to execute the next action. The next action will execute right after the animation finishes up. Once we are at task A0, task 0A, we will basically print this message and play the talk animation. We also proxy into task 0 location, just for sake of convenience. Proxying means that the particular AI task entity will be transformed to the location of the other entity, the proxy name entity, which ensures that we don't have to stack those AI task entities up at a single location to ensure the monster goes to the location correctly. We can simply rely on proxying the location, which ensures that we only have to have a single node located at a specific location where we want the monster to go. This entity sends us to different locations. It sends us to this location where we perform the look around animation and bring this message. This then goes to this location. And once we finish with this location, we are hard-coded to go to AI task 3. Now, as you can see, task 3 is over here, but from the video you might remember that the monster would actually walk to the window. The reason why it walks to the window is, once again, proxy. We set the proxy to task 0, which is the AI task entity behind the monster over here. And that's basically where the monster will go. Once he goes there, he prints the message, "I am sorry, but we are out of stock," and plays the talk animation. It also executes the task done entity. Task done entity is this one in the corner. The only purpose of this entity is to set up the talk target field to task sorry. From now on, when we interact with the NPC will execute talk target set to talk sorry. Talk sorry is another entity which exists over here, called AI do task again, which basically once again executes task sorry do. I prefixed AI task with do, so it's easier to distinguish them. We set movement kind to 3 to make the traversal from the tasks to task instantaneous. This executes this following task, which is also proxied to the location of task 0, and it prints again no stock. Once this particular animation is done, it executes trigger counter over here called task angry count. The purpose of this trigger counter is to count how many times we asked the vendor if he still has something in the stock. Once we hit the number 3, once we ask him at least 3 times, he will execute this particular entity called AI task angry set. This sets the interaction task to task angry. Task angry is declared over here, and it executes task angry do. Task angry do is this entity, AI task entity, which is also as you can see, set with movement kind instantaneous, or played with instantaneous movement kind, which means I had enough. It doesn't play any animation at all, and it executes task angry do kill. Task angry do kill is this particular entity, which purpose is to literally only attack the player. We simply provide the name of the entity that should be hostile against the player, and the execution happens. Now let me demonstrate how this works in action. At this point, I will just jump to the game. Oops. I'll jump to the game. And then I'll press the right mouse button to execute the sequence. Now he plays task 0. Now he plays task 1 instantaneously. Walks off to task 2. Now walks to task 3, right now. Finally, we are at the last stage where he tells us that he is out of stock. That's fine. I can press right mouse button on the NPC to ask again. He tells me, however, that he's out of stock. Doesn't matter, I'm gonna ask again, and he tells me the same thing. Let me try to ask again. Oh no, I pissed him off. He attacks me. So that's pretty much all to say about this implementation. So that's really this is all that that is currently present here. The whole purpose of this system is to basically showcase how NPCs can interact with the world, or how the player can interact with the NPCs and such. And I hope that this has proved to be a useful resource for the future. That's all.